Our relationship with animals almost always reflects a very clear hierarchy. Humans at the top, animals below, usually as food or pets. But what if things were the other way around, and we became the food? Animal Human is a manga that builds exactly this subversion in the most disturbing way possible, making humans be hunted, tortured, and devoured by animals that possess the same consciousness as we do. The story itself, about this conflicting relationship between prey and predator, becomes even deeper and more widely discussed in later chapters. But its beginning is quite simple. After a terrible car crash, a man lies injured on the ground. He hears someone coming and weakly whispers his daughter's name, thinking they're finally saved. He then wakes up in a strange bed, confused about where he is. His head throbs as he tries to remember the accident, recalling an animal on the road. Suddenly, he sits bolt upright, panicking as he realizes Chica is gone. A hazy memory shows her in the passenger seat right before the crash. Desperate, he tries to get up but tumbles to the floor. He keeps yelling her name, demanding to know where she is. Then the door opens, and the man looks up in complete disbelief. A figure with the head of a pig calmly walks into the room. The creature bows politely, asking if he slept well. But the man is too stunned, wondering if this is all just some weird costume. He kneels on the floor, explaining his memory is fuzzy, but he knows his daughter was with him, and he begs to know where she is. The pigman explains they were in an accident and he hit his head, but reassures him that his daughter is safe with only minor scratches. Overcome with relief, the man asks if he could please see his daughter. The pigman smiles and tells him of course he can. The scene shifts outside to a massive estate where the pig explains that breakfast is waiting and his daughter is already there. So he follows the pigman down a long, unsettling hallway. The walls are lined with strange portraits of different animals. He thinks to himself that this place is incredibly old and huge, but he finds the animal paintings to be in really bad taste. He finally asks what's going on with the costume, wondering if it's a themed hotel. The pigman just laughs, finding the idea amusing. They approach a large set of doors, and the pig warns that what's coming next might just knock him off his feet. As the doors open, he's greeted by a terrifying sight. A full dinner table surrounded by silent, staring, animal-headed figures. He can't believe his eyes as he sees even more people in these bizarre animal costumes staring back at him from the dinner table. But then a small voice calls out for her daddy, and Chica runs right into his arms. She tells him she was playing with the animals while he slept. Meanwhile, the goat and the ram are judging him like an auction piece. One comments that he looks healthy, but the cat complains that he reeks of cigarettes. He tries to politely thank everyone for saving them. The dog, however, wonders if he has the stamina to properly entertain them. Suddenly, a boar grabs him from behind and starts sniffing his collar. He leans in close and comments that the two of them smell alike. The boar explains that he could tell they were father and daughter just from that. He says the child smells sweeter, while the father's scent is more bitter. The deer at the head of the table sternly tells the boar his behavior is inappropriate. Laughing, the boar apologizes for his little display. With a calm and commanding presence, the deer then invites their honored guest to please have a seat at the table with them. He's so hungry that he immediately starts eating the food they serve. It looks like some kind of strange, fancy meatloaf. The deer seems pleased that he's enjoying the estate's finest cuisine. The man apologizes, saying he was just so hungry and that it's truly delicious. Their host explains that good food is the best hospitality they can offer. He then offers some meat to Chica, guessing it might be pork. As he eats, the other animals watch with glee. The cow comments that it's impressive eating, and the cat agrees it's a sign of good health. He keeps chowing down and drinking his wine, not noticing the strange looks. The other guests seem to be having a great time watching him. After the meal, he thanks them for the feast. He then asks for directions, saying he'd like to take his daughter to a doctor just in case. The moment he says that, the whole room goes silent. The animals just stare at him with a dark look, and he wonders if he said something wrong. The deer calmly agrees a doctor is a good idea, but suggests they take a tour of their proud farm first, much to the man's confusion. Chica then begs her daddy to stay a little longer to play. The deer smiles and assures him he'll enjoy it, so he reluctantly agrees. While walking, he asks if they can just call a taxi. but the pig apologizes, explaining there's no cell service out here to make any calls. Chica suddenly asks the pig how old he is. When he says he's 5, she gets excited that they're the same age and can be friends. He tells Chica not to bother him, but still comments on how real the pig's ears look. Their guide then struggles to open a heavy metal door. As the door slides open, it reveals a horrifying sight. A barn filled with filthy, desperate humans locked in pens like livestock. The caged people look gaunt and terrified, their eyes wide with fear. The little pig then cheerfully announces that it's time for them to eat. He then watches in absolute horror as the humans scramble over each other, fighting desperately for the slop pouring from a feeding tube. The pig explains that this farm constantly breeds and manages around 100 humans, and that this particular shed is for the lowest ranked ones. He notes how filthy they are, but also finds them cute. He says the humans who can't speak are his favorite of all. Holding his daughter tight, the man finally asks what kind of sick joke this is, realizing they're keeping people just like cattle. The pig reveals they conducted a full examination on him. He says that thanks to his age and muscle, he'll make for excellent meat. He just smiles at the man's horrified expression. Then he calmly states that everyone reacts like that at first. But the pig asks him to think logically, explaining their goal is to produce safe, high-quality meat through strict quality control. The revelation is too much, and the man gets sick all over the floor. The pig grabs a cattle prod, muttering that it's a real shame. The pig then reveals the truth about the meal he just ate, and the man's eyes widen in absolute horror. He's told they'll be kept in quarantine for a few weeks, and if they're disease-free, they'll be moved to a human shed. The pig's shadow looms over them as he leads them to a cramped cell, asking them to just bear with it for now. As the door slams shut, he touches his lips, the horrifying taste of the meal still fresh in his memory. Now alone in the darkness, he finally accepts the terrifying truth that these weren't costumes, but actual monsters. He realizes they were brought here on purpose, not to be kept, but to be eaten, just like the others. His daughter starts crying, sobbing that it's all her fault because she's the one who wanted to play more. Hearing this, he snaps out of his despair, remembering the promise he made to his late wife to always protect Chica. The scene shifts outside to a field where the little pig reports to a group on a stage that it is now time. We see the deer, Sir Ernest, calmly cleaning his shotgun while asking his subordinate if the plan is proceeding smoothly. The pig confirms that he made sure they were terrified, and more importantly, that he left their cell door unlocked. Sir Ernest then stands and addresses the other animals, announcing that the long-awaited hunt is about to begin. With that, the armed party of predators sets off into the fields, eager to begin their gruesome sport. Back in the wilderness, the man is running for their lives, clutching his daughter tightly as he flees across the open land. He pushes through the dense forest, believing that if they can just make it back to the wrecked car, they can finally call for help. As he runs, he can't believe what he's seen. He knows he has to get back to town and warn everyone about this nightmare. Suddenly, he hears a voice calling out and turns to see a young boy waving at him from the trees, asking if he's okay. Overjoyed, he rushes over, begging for help from the animal-headed monsters. But he stops when he sees the boy is wearing a leather collar. Before he can react, the boy lunges forward and attacks him, barking and growling just like a wild dog. A dog-headed hunter then appears, praising the boy for finding them. The man desperately yells at the kid to let him go. The boy is ecstatic that his master is praising him, but the hunter just casually raises his shotgun and blows it off. Annoyed, the hunter mutters that he hit his John by mistake. He then leaves the other leashed humans behind and gives chase. The man runs in terror, his mind reeling from the twisted scene, but then he trips and smashes his head on the jagged rocks below. Dazed and bleeding, he collapses by a stream. Chica looks down at him, her eyes wide with fear as she calls out his name. Knowing he's too injured to continue, he tells her to listen. He explains there's a river right there, and she must follow it to find people. But Chica starts crying, shaking her head as she yells that she can't do it alone and won't leave him behind. With tears streaming down his face, he screams at her with all his might, pleading for her to please just go and save herself. Just then, the boar hunter appears holding a large bear trap. Meanwhile, Another hunter waits patiently by the edge of the river. The cat-like figure notes that them crossing the river is a problem, since it will weaken their scent. The boar sniffs the air, trying to track them. He finds that the kid's scent stops right at the water's edge, next to the downed father. He pretends to give up the chase, saying he hates the cold. He lies there, feigning defeat, a faint glimmer of hope in his eyes. But the boar leans in with a wicked grin, asking if he actually believed that. The man's hope instantly turns back to pure terror. The boar lifts him by the throat, praising his touching sacrifice. He growls that he could smell the blood from a mile away. The man's mind races, realizing he's gonna die. But the boar hesitates, knowing Ernest's rule, yet decides he'll just apologize for it later. With a sickening crunch, the boar sinks his teeth into the man's ear, screaming in agony as the monster comments on how delicious it is. Just as the boar is about to take another bite, a voice from the shadows tells him to stop, and a shotgun barrel comes into view. A sudden blast sends the boar flying, his arm blown clean off by the powerful shot, stunning him with pain and surprise. Sir Ernest then steps out from the trees, his shotgun smoking, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly intensity. He puts the barrel to the boar's head and calls him an animal. The boar stammers, trying to apologize for his moment of weakness. Ernest glares down at the injured man, demanding to know who gave the boar permission to eat a human alive, calling it pure cruelty. He then screams at the cowering boar, reminding him that life must be treasured. The boar whimpers that he's sorry and won't do it again. Ernest calmly explains that if they treat humans like trash, they cease to be who they are, and that respect must never be forgotten. He then turns his attention to the man, sending the others away. He approaches him and gently says he's bleeding badly and he wants to see. Ernest apologizes, saying this should have never happened. He hands the man a cloth for his wound, leaving him completely baffled. The man stares up at the deer, who looks down with genuine concern. He can't help but wonder if this creature is actually trying to save him. He begs Ernest to save his daughter, his voice cracking with desperation. The deer gently reassures him that it's all right, and he has nothing to fear. But just then, the bear hunter emerges from the river, carrying the limp body of his daughter Chica over his shoulder. The man stares in stunned silence, his heart stopping as he sees his daughter, unconscious and helpless in the monster's grasp. A blood-curdling scream escapes his lips, the sound echoing through the forest as his world completely falls apart. We're then shown a kitchen, where animal-headed chefs are busy cooking, slicing, and preparing various cuts of meat with expert skill. A narrator explains the proper way to cook human meat, from slow roasting the thigh to barely cooking the loin for a rare texture. They continue, detailing how blood is used for sausages and how the innards are stuffed into the stomach to create haggis. Even the bones and fat are used, simmered with vegetables for a deep broth, while the small bits of meat are turned into an elegant pâté. Back in the dining room, animal waiters in chef uniforms are setting the table for another grand feast. The creatures assure their guest that it's all right and he has nothing to fear, promising that his life will not be wasted in the slightest. Sir Ernest looks on and explains that he will become their flesh and blood and that he will live on within them. The horrifying main course is then revealed. The man's severed head, decorated with a crown of flowers, served in a silver bowl. The animal guests all enjoy the feast, the injured boar happily eating a piece of meat while the others drink and smoke. They toast to Ernest's creativity for hunting a parent and child, calling the night's feast a great success. Just as they're celebrating, the pig announces that 3 new humans have arrived at the estate, ready for the next hunt. The final scene shows the full, horrific spread, with the man's dismembered body serving as the platter for the very meal made from his flesh. The scene shifts to a peaceful countryside, where a cart makes its way towards a distant town under a clear sky. 2 workers, a badger and a lynx, push the heavy cart along, one commenting on how great it feels to be outside in nature. But the lynx, Nero, isn't enjoying it at all, muttering that it only beats cleaning the musty cages back at the farm. He complains that the cart is getting heavier, yelling at his partner Doug for not pulling his weight, who is distracted by a bug. Doug tells Nero he should enjoy the outdoors, since they rarely get the chance, but Nero just wants to get the job done. While Doug wishes every day could be like this, Nero fumes about the twisted hobbies of the nobles he's forced to serve. We then see what's inside their cart, a cramped cage filled with terrified and emaciated human prisoners. Doug romantically calls human hunting a noble tradition for the elite, saying it's his dream to participate in one someday. Suddenly, a hand reaches out from the cage, but Nero slaps it away, angrily telling the prisoner to keep their hands to themselves. A desperate young girl then grabs his arm through the bars, her eyes pleading as she holds on tight. She begs him to help her and let her out of the cage, but Nero just stares back at her, a flicker of shock in his eyes. Doug rushes over to check on him, but Nero just brushes it off, saying it was nothing and telling the girl to be careful. They then spot a smoke signal rising in the distance, and Doug announces that it's time for them to begin. They open the cage doors, releasing the humans who run for their lives, while the two guards comment on how pointless it is. And with that, the hunt begins, as a fresh pack of predators starts chasing down the terrified humans through the open fields. The hunt is brutal and swift, as the animal predators easily overpower their human prey, killing them one by one. Soon, the field is littered with bodies, and the predators stand triumphantly over their kills, the hunt a rousing success. After the slaughter, Doug asks Nero if he wants to grab some food, and he reluctantly agrees that it wouldn't hurt. The scene shifts to a lively pub, where various animals are drinking and celebrating, their walls grotesquely decorated with human heads. Nero and Doug sit down for a drink, with Doug happily exclaiming that nothing beats a cold one after a hard day's work. Doug praises Nero for picking such lively and energetic prey, saying the nobles were very pleased with the hunt. He then notices Nero's quiet mood, telling him he can tell something is on his mind and asking why he's being so cold. Doug presses on, saying he's been watching him lately and has noticed how down he seems, asking what's on his mind. Nero tries to brush it off, but Doug insists he's going to get him drunk until he spills whatever is bothering him. Their food then arrives, a gruesome dish of a sautéed human leg, which Doug happily digs into, praising the rich flavor. He asks Nero if it makes him proud to eat what they've raised, but the lynx can only stare, unable to say a word. The memory of the caged humans and the desperate girl's plea flash through his mind, and he realizes that eating them just feels wrong. Doug notices Nero isn't eating and asks if something's up, reminding him that his food is going to get cold. Suddenly, Nero feels sick to his stomach and rushes to the bathroom, throwing up violently in the toilet. He tries to convince himself that it's just meat, but as they walk home, he can't shake the guilt that's eating away at him. The next day, a group of animal children arrive at the farm for a tour, excited to see all the humans in their cages. They shout and bang on the bars, trying to get the humans' attention, but the prisoners just huddle together in fear. Sir Ernest calmly tells the children that if they want to observe humans, they need to do it quietly and from a distance. He explains that if they stay still, the humans will eventually get curious about them instead, a lesson Nero silently takes in. And just as Ernest predicted, the humans start to look over. A donkey-like teacher introduces himself to Nero, thanking him for the tour. Nero takes them to the pen for overweight humans, explaining that their fatty meat is perfect for hamburgers and sausages. But then one of the caged humans lunges at the bars, startling a young child and reminding them of the potential danger. Nero uses this as a teaching moment, explaining that handling humans can be tricky, and it's always best to keep a safe distance. While Nero is cleaning, Ernest approaches and comments that he's good with children, asking if he's fond of them. Ernest agrees, saying that in their small village, children are invaluable treasures who brighten up the whole place. He then tells Nero that to the children, he's just the same, and that working on the farm is something to be proud of. Nero is surprised by how easygoing the village leader is, and feels a strange sense of familiarity, as if they've met before. Ernest then suggests that they wrap up the day's lesson by butchering one of the humans to prepare the meat for the children. Nero objects, saying they'd need clearance for something like that, but Ernest just smiles, reminding him that he's the one who grants it. Ernest examines one of the human prisoners, calling him a magnificent specimen, young and with a healthy complexion. The young human is strapped to a table, crying for his mommy and begging for someone to help him as he pleads for his life. The animal children watch with glee, commenting on how energetic he is, but Nero just stares in horror, his body frozen. The teacher praises the children for their diligence, saying that what matters most is facing everything with sincerity. Ernest agrees, adding that to do otherwise would be disrespectful to life itself, a statement that seems to resonate with Nero. He then lectures the children, explaining that to eat life is to eat humans, and that it's a grave responsibility. A young goat then asks if it's really okay for them to eat life like this, a question Ernest calls excellent. He tells them to never forget respect and gratitude, claiming that for a human, being eaten and enjoyed is their greatest happiness. The children eagerly accept this twisted logic, vowing not to look away. But Nero is left completely stunned and confused. As the butcher approaches with a knife, he explains that if the human struggles too much, it ruins the flavor of the meat. He reassures the boy that he has nothing to fear, but as Nero watches, he feels like he's about to remember something important. Ernest reassures a terrified human on a butcher's table, the same comforting words echoing in Nero's mind. The promise that his life will not be wasted in the slightest rings through his ears, triggering a flood of forgotten memories. He remembers a grand dining room filled with animal-headed figures, all staring down at him with hungry eyes. Then he sees the terrified faces of his fellow prisoners and a portrait of a deer hanging on the wall, a chilling sense of dread washing over him. The memories become clearer, the thrill of the hunt, the unlocked cage, and the brutal beasts chasing them down in the fields. All of these horrifying images flash through his mind, all centered around one terrifying figure, the deer with the massive antlers. He remembers the bear hunter carrying the body of a young girl, a scene that now feels hauntingly familiar. Then he sees his own face, the face he had before, his eyes wide with terror as he faced his own gruesome end. Back in the present, Ernest asks if something is wrong, and Nero finally understands, the full, horrifying truth crashing down on him. He looks at Ernest, the butcher, the predator, and finally remembers that this monster is the one who ate him. The final piece of the puzzle falls into place, and Nero looks down at his paws, his fur, and realizes he was once a human too. He thinks of his daughter, Chica, and then recalls the sight of a bloodied, mangled paw. Then his mind drifts to those animals, the very ones who were responsible for it all. A small, blood-covered bear cub appears, innocently asking if he wants some meat too. The cub explains it's fresh enough to eat raw, but the lynx raises his club in anger. With a furious roar, he brings his weapon down on the deer, releasing all of his rage. But the scene shifts, and we see the children happily thanking Mr. Nero in the prison. The deer also expresses his gratitude, saying the kids had a great time and he'll be counting on Nero. Nero watches them leave, utterly confused and trying to figure out what's even happening. Alone in the dark corridor, we see the deer shedding a single, silent tear. The scene then cuts to a lonely house in the rain, with a teddy bear nailed to a post. Inside, a badger is about to eat dinner when a frantic knock comes from the door. Nero bursts in and grabs him, yelling and asking if he remembers being human. The stunned badger tries to understand, asking if Nero used to be human and just remembered it all. Nero explains that it's hard to believe, but he vividly remembers being killed on the farm as a human. He gets angry when Doug starts laughing, but the badger just says he has a creative imagination. The lynx insists they're children of God, but Doug screams back that humans are just meat. Collapsing to the ground in tears, Nero cries out that he just wants to see his daughter, Chica. He desperately wonders if Chica could also be trapped in an animal's body, or if she's already dead. Doug offers to make him some stew with fresh human, but Nero just gets up and slams the door. As he runs through the night, he questions if he was ever human and how this could even be possible. Then he hears a strange sound from nearby, causing him to trip and fall face first into the snow. A raccoon greets him, saying his timing is perfect, before running off down the street. The raccoon holds up a freshly cooked human skull over a fire, casually asking Nero if he wants some. Absolutely horrified, Nero covers his mouth and runs away, thinking that he's going insane. He then encounters a child on a leash who's barking like a dog, and he tells him to knock it off. The pet's owner apologizes, but Nero turns away, saying he just doesn't want to be there anymore. Having finally reached his breaking point, a single tear falls as he runs away from the town. He walks alone through the empty streets, wondering who he is and why he's the only one like this. We see a heartbreaking flashback where little Chica cries, realizing the cruel truth that the weak are always eaten. Chica asks her daddy if she'll be eaten for being weak, but he promises to beat up anyone who tries. Back in the present, he remembers that promise as he watches a horse-like man light up a cigarette nearby. The horseman spots him and asks if he's back for another go, saying he's always open to new experiences. We're shown the brutal nature of these creatures, who are neither animal nor human, existing only to devour. The protagonist sadly accepts this reality, knowing that he's no different from any of them. After their confrontation, he thanks the beaten horseman, who is left completely confused by the gesture. But now, with a newfound purpose, the guy smiles, declaring that he finally understands why he's alive. With cold, dead eyes, he grabs the horseman by his collar, moving in for the final blow. The horseman begs him to wait, starting to realize this situation is a lot more serious than he thought. But without any warning, the guy smashes his skull into the horse's face, completely shattering it. He then reveals his true purpose, screaming that he was reborn for the sole reason of wiping them all out. The scene shifts to the next morning in a peaceful town, where a badger is greeted by his friend. The friend complains that Gran won't answer the door, assuming he's just passed out from drinking too much again. Meanwhile, inside Gran's house, the protagonist lets out a loud burp, looking incredibly full and satisfied. He stretches out in the chair and sighs contently, exclaiming that he's absolutely stuffed. We then see the horseman's severed head in the trash, as the lynx thinks about how amazing animals taste. In a quiet village, a group of kids run down the street as a small one in overalls struggles to catch up. He stops on a bridge to catch his breath, complaining that they left him behind, when something catches his eye. Down in the water, a horrifying collection of bodies floats lifelessly against a sewer grate. The scene shifts to a mansion where the privileged class discuss the killings, concluding the culprit must be working class. They wonder if it could be a human, but others dismiss the idea, saying no human could possibly defeat them. But then a large bear, gnawing on a bone, interrupts them and asks what they're all yapping about. He growls that it doesn't matter who's responsible. Their only job is to find the culprit and kill them. The others try to argue for a more measured plan, but the bear scoffs at their weak talk. He roars that their claws and fangs aren't for show, they're for tearing bastards like this to pieces. A deer man named Ernest then enters the room, as the bear mocks the others for being nothing but sheep. But Ernest has brought something with him, presenting the severed, bloody head of their comrade, Hoinsa. The deer man is shaking uncontrollably, his face covered in sweat, as the others look on in absolute horror. The room erupts in panic, but Ernest tells them not to be afraid and to believe in their God. Later that night, the bear leaves the mansion, thinking that calling themselves children of God is a joke since they're all just beasts. Watching from the safety of the mansion, Ernest peers through the window with a serious look on his face. Meanwhile, the large bear notices a faint scent of blood drifting from an abandoned building nearby, making him curious. A twisted smile forms on his face, realizing that it's finally his turn to join the hunt. He kicks the door open, thinking that he doesn't give a damn if it's a human or one of his own inside. But suddenly, Nero drops down from the rafters above, casually asking if the bear minds him dropping in. Before the bear can react, the lynx drives a blade downward, catching the giant beast off guard. The bear tries to defend himself, but he suddenly notices a thick rope wrapped tight around his neck. With a heavy heave, Nero uses his weight to hoist the massive creature into the air, choking him. Desperate to survive, the bear swings his claws wildly, screaming that he's gonna kill the little cat. But Nero dodges the attack with terrifying ease, moving as if he doesn't care about the danger at all. Seeing this agility, the bear finally realizes he's up against a natural-born killer, a true wildcat. As he looks into Nero's cold eyes, he senses that this isn't just simple bloodlust he's feeling. It's a relentless thirst for vengeance, driving the lynx to let out a ferocious roar of pure hatred. In his mind, he sees the face of his daughter Chica, telling himself to hold on just a little longer. We then see him sitting in a bathtub filled with gore and remains, whispering for his daddy to wait. The scene shifts to a funeral, where the group mourns that even the bear known as Ugly was taken out. We're shown a gruesome glimpse of Ernest carefully removing the brain from his fallen comrade's severed head. The others praise Ernest for his dedication, explaining that he keeps the brains on display to honor their memories. Holding the brain with strange affection, the deer walks back to the mansion, calling it their warm and welcoming home. A disturbing smile spreads across his face as he speaks to the organ, telling Ugly it's time to go home. Later, in his private room filled with jars, Ernest reminisces that he's known Ugly since the village was founded. He sits down and speaks to the jar, admiring how his friend was always reckless and true to himself. Staring at the preserved brain, he whispers that Ugly was the only one who knew the secret of what they truly are. Ernest holds the brain close to his face, whispering sadly that now he has no one left to talk to. Suddenly, Nero bursts into the room with a shotgun, as Ernest calmly notes that he's the last one left alive. Filled with rage, the lynx warns that he's gonna kill him just as mercilessly as he killed his daughter. He presses the cold steel barrel right against the deer's temple, preparing to end this nightmare once and for all. With a deafening blast, he pulls the trigger, completely blowing the top of Ernest's skull wide open. The body slumps to the floor in a pool of blood, leaving Nero standing alone in the silent room. Collapsing to his knees, he sighs with relief, believing that it's finally over and he can join his daughter. He remembers the happy days carrying Chica on his shoulders, whispering that Daddy finally beat up all the bad guys. Ready to end it all, he puts the barrel in his mouth, telling her not to be scared of his appearance. But suddenly a voice interrupts him, marveling at his raw strength and the incredible speed he just displayed. Ernest is standing there completely unharmed, asking if this evolved state doesn't fill him with absolute joy. Nero freezes in total confusion, staring at the corpse he just shot, while the real Ernest stands in the doorway. The deer explains that the dead body was just a soulless biological doll created purely for his twisted experiments. He praises Nero for regaining his memories, while the lynx seethes with rage, realizing this bastard is truly insane. But then a small hand reaches out from behind the deer, revealing a little girl dressed in a simple dress. The killer instinct vanishes instantly, replaced by pure shock as he recognizes his beloved daughter standing right in front of him. His eyes wide with shock at the sight before him. He can't believe it, whispering Chica's name as he realizes that she's actually alive. Rushing towards her, he asks if she's been doing well, desperately trying to get her to recognize him. With tears welling in his eyes, he gently tells the little girl that it's her daddy. But the girl just stares back blankly, only able to respond with a confused meow. The deer man then calls her adorable, cruelly revealing that she's nothing more than his prized pet. He explains that he found her on a hunt, and she was just too cute to eat, so he kept her. The father screams her name in agony, yelling that he's her daddy, but his words don't reach her. Back in the present, her father is filled with regret, wishing he had saved her back then. He collapses to his knees, apologizing, saying that as long as she's alive, that's enough for him. The man won't ask for more, he just wants her to smile and be happy living as a human. But the deer man grins, telling him that this time, he won't let him be alone. Fueled by a new determination, the lynx father charges forward with a powerful stride. He lets out a mighty roar, vowing that he's gonna beat up every last one of them. At that moment, a memory sparks in Chica's mind, and she finally whispers the word, "Daddy." The deer man impales the father on his antlers, noticing with a smile that she remembered. Though he's dying, the father is thankful, clinging tightly to his daughter's captor. He promises her through gritted teeth that Daddy will beat up all of the bad guys. Chica watches in horror as memories of her real, happy family come flooding back to her. Chica's memories come flooding back, and she tearfully whispers her daddy's name as she finally remembers him. Her gaze then falls upon the deer man, who holds her father's lifeless body after eating him. We're then shown a gruesome scene as the deer viciously devours her father's flesh and organs. The scene shifts, and Chica awakens on a couch where the deer man casually greets her. He tells her it's okay now, trying to comfort her after what she's been through, but she's terrified. But he insists there's something she must understand, a story that began with a single goat. The story flashes back to the last female of her kind, a majestic goat that humans called Maiden. In a desperate attempt to save her species, scientists used genetic engineering to let her reproduce alone. However, they made a fatal miscalculation, as this process required a massive amount of energy. Maiden soon developed a taste for meat, and one day she attacked her caretaker, eating their brain. Through this act, she combined human and animal genes, becoming a creature that could birth animal humans. He explains that this is how their kind came to be, a cruel joke that forces them to eat humans. So Chica asks him why he ate her daddy, since he wasn't human, but an animal. With a disturbing smile, he admits that animal humans just taste far better than regular human meat. We see a flashback of him riling up a crowd, claiming a human was responsible for their recent troubles. The enraged mob of animal humans screams for them to kill the filthy human and eat her. He then delivers a grand speech about their divine right to raise humans as livestock for their own consumption. But in the crowd, a pigman thinks to himself that they're just failed creations meant to be eaten. Back in the present, the deer says humans and animals are his nourishment, a right only a god should have. As he carries her away, he explains that her father was a miracle, a rare case who remembered his human past. The deer smiles, telling Chica that she carries that same lineage, claiming that those with memories are delicious. He brings her to a massive, grotesque creature surrounded by bones, presenting the girl as a gift for Mommy. Cruelly, he explains that he taught her everything because complex emotions give the brain a rich, perfect spice. Chica freezes in terror, visualizing a giant beast ready to swallow her whole in a single bite. Licking his thumb, the deer man wonders aloud what she'll taste like once she is finally reborn. The scene then shifts to the town outside, where a bell rings out across the snowy streets. We cut to a dark staircase, leading down into the gloomy silence of a cold, stone basement. In a flashback, the deer man holds up a newborn lamb-human hybrid, dripping with fluids from birth. The creature looks straight ahead, whispering that she's so happy to see Chica again. Smiling, the deer holds the confused lamb, realizing that she doesn't remember her time as a human yet. He gently places her into a woven basket, telling her there's no rush to recall the past. With a chilling stare, he tells the infant to take her time until she ripens just right. He heads for the door, announcing that he's going to fetch a special cake made with human milk. The room falls silent, leaving the little lamb alone near buckets filled with bloody remains. Hearing the door close, the baby reaches out its hoof, seemingly waiting for someone to return. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echo on the stairs, and the lamb looks up, expecting her caretaker. But instead, a human soldier walks in, casually holding the deer man's severed head in his hand. He reports that there's just a brat in the basement, ignoring the dead predator lying on the floor. Outside, armed human troops storm the village, leaving the confused animal residents wondering if those are humans. Without hesitation, the soldiers massacre the town, revealing that this tragedy was just one farm supplying a modern city. The scene shifts to a high-rise, where a council argues that the local administrator messed up, though some suggest letting him fix it. One executive sternly notes that this is a major quality control error, since the meat tried to start breeding on its own. Sitting alongside human elites, a group of wealthy animal people listens as the speaker declares that their food security has been violated. An orangutan warns that even a small rot can destroy the body, so he calls for a vote to purge the farm immediately. We learn that countless farms exist all over the world, mass-producing high-quality animal-human meat to satisfy the appetites of the rich. They raise their glasses to this dark system, celebrating a world where humans and beasts can come together to consume one another. The guests then casually begin their meal, complimenting the taste of the deer man and laughing that they can just raise more. On a silver platter, the severed heads of the father and daughter are served as a side dish, garnished like simple decorations. As they feast on a roasted human body, the narrator explains that the only true law of this world is that the strong eat the weak. Back at the farm, the peaceful village is now an inferno, with thick black smoke rising from the burning homes. Soldiers mercilessly gun down the fleeing residents, while the little lamb stands frozen in the middle of the slaughter, unsure what to do. A soldier looks down at her with pure disgust, ordering the filthy beast to get inside the transport truck right now. Loudspeakers blare out lies that they are here to protect everyone, warning the survivors that running or hiding is completely pointless. They are herded into trucks to be moved to a new farm, told that anyone who resists will be shown no mercy. Inside the cramped truck, an old goat looks over in surprise, realizing that the lamb's stomach is growling despite the horror outside. With a chilling smile on her new animal face, the reborn chica stares ahead and simply whispers that she's hungry. We learn that at the farms partnered with Ann Pachietta, the process begins with strict oversight of the equipment. They guarantee safety and security, carefully monitoring the feed and living conditions to reduce the livestock's stress levels. Strict quality standards are established for each barn, ensuring the animals are raised exactly to their specifications. By doing this, they're able to produce an exceptionally ideal and supreme quality of anthro meat for the market. Head chef Takanagi then introduces himself, explaining that for him, anthro meat is simply the ultimate ingredient. When people ask for the secret to his cooking, he simply answers that he listens to the ingredient's voice. He studies what brings them joy or anxiety, analyzing their pain, fear, and even moments of comfort. By exchanging words with the beasts, he claims he can understand their hearts, gaining 100 new spices. Once he grasps their emotions, all that's left is for him to gently guide them toward deliciousness. This is what restaurant Ann Pachietta offers, an unprecedented dining experience woven together for the finest guests. The scene shifts to the beautiful, modern facility, where the staff sincerely looks forward to every customer's visit. Inside the dining hall, Chef Takanagi stands before his kitchen staff, thanking the wealthy guests for coming today. A customer sweats with excitement, whispering that booking a table a full year in advance was totally worth it. The chef announces that tonight's menu is a one-of-a-kind full course, infused with personal tastes and preferences. Smiling broadly, he asks the room if they are ready to open the door to a new world of cuisine. He then reveals a young anthro-human ram, sourced directly from their partnered farm and laid out on the table. The guests are amazed by the extravagance, realizing it's a full-course meal utilizing the entire body as a platter. But the chef just grins, warning the impressed lady that the real surprise is actually yet to come. He then holds up a small silver bell, ringing it loudly right next to the garnished head's ear. To everyone's shock, the main dish wakes up, looking around in confusion as he sees his own open chest. Takanagi explains that even though the head is removed, the body is kept alive by machines and artificial hearts. He points to the open chest, inviting the guests to enjoy the beating heart at the peak of ultimate freshness. The chef holds the living head while the guests applaud, preparing to explain the horrors on the table. First up is the arm served as a carpaccio, which has been paired with edible flowers to preserve the aroma. The ram is confused and terrified, while the chef describes how the other arm was minced and fried cricket style. Next are the internal organs, which have been blended with herbs into a rich, marbled pâté for the bread. We see the guests digging in, enjoying a hearty soup made by simmering the shank meat directly on the bone. Realizing what's happening, the ram begs them to wait, staring at his own rib meat wrapped in prosciutto. But the chef just smiles calmly, asking the victim to entertain the table by telling them his life story. The guests chime in with curiosity, praising the flavor of his meat and asking him how he was raised. They bombard the dying creature with questions, happily asking about his favorite food, his siblings, and his friends. Tears stream down the ram's face as he pleads for help, but the guests just complain that they can't hear him. He looks up in absolute horror, surrounded by smiling monsters who continue to eat him alive while they chat. Takanagi suggests that all this talking must be thirsty work, so he inserts a syringe directly into the exposed heart. He pumps a vintage cognac into the organ, letting the alcohol ride through the bloodstream to soak the entire body. The ram's eyes glaze over, and he starts to giggle, feeling a strange, drunken euphoria wash over his pain. The chef gently strokes the animal's head, manipulating him until the broken creature actually stammers out a thank you. They then pry his mouth open, forcing the intoxicated beast to taste the very meal that his body has become. Takanagi raises a glass for a palate cleanser, standing in front of the weeping, mutilated centerpiece of the evening. Later that night, the chef walks alone by the water, reflecting on the massive success of the dinner service. Back in the kitchen, he winces and rubs his throbbing arm until a deep voice calls out from the doorway. He turns to see a large pig in a suit, realizing it's the Minister of Food and Agriculture, Guenso. The minister praises the flawless meal, admitting that he was watching the mesmerizing work from behind the scenes the whole time. Humble as always, Takanagi insists that he merely listens to the voice of the ingredients to get such quality. Guenso asks if he's always alone, and the chef explains he likes to stay behind to mentally replay the dishes. Lighting a cigar, the pig mentions that there is a rare, special request for the next exclusive dinner gathering. He blows a thick cloud of smoke, revealing that the guest of honor desires a wild-caught, natural human. A dark sweat rolls down the chef's face as he grins and notes that the challenge really gets the blood pumping. Later that night, the chef is driving his son home, but the boy asks if he's even listening. The teenager excitedly shares that he made the starting lineup, making his father beam with pride. Takanagi promises he'll be there to cheer him on, assuring the boy that it's a big moment. But his mind drifts to the kitchen, recalling the minister's shocking demand for a wild-caught human. He tries to refuse, sweating as he explains that he only knows how to prepare anthro meat. However, the pig insists this is the highest stage for a chef, triggering Takanagi's dark ambition. Back in the car, the chef silently vows to seize this opportunity for the sake of his family. His son smiles innocently, unaware that his father has just made a terrible, life-changing decision. The scene shifts to the restaurant, where the staff has been called in for an unusual late-night meeting. They sit around the table, eagerly guessing that the head chef has come up with a new recipe. The young cooks admire his passion, telling each other how lucky they are to work under him. Takanagi finally enters the room, but he strangely locks the door behind him without saying a word. Suddenly, a female chef notices a weird smell, while another asks what that hissing sound is. Panic erupts as they realize it's a gas leak, coughing and scrambling to escape the sealed room. Outside, a gas canister releases its deadly contents, while the trapped staff bangs on the door in vain. The next day, Takanagi stands before a room of wealthy animals, humbly thanking them for visiting. A zebra comments on the irony, noting that he heard this place usually serves its own kind. The chef smiles warmly, announcing that they put special effort into the visual presentation today. The guests gasp in awe, beholding a massive, grotesque tower made from the severed bodies of his students. As they marvel at the terrified faces, Takanagi confirms with a serene smile that they are indeed wild-caught. He bows deeply to the table, introducing the 13 individuals who were raised with the utmost care under his guidance. A cat guest asks what that strange smell is, so the chef reveals that it's literally the human soul. He explains his philosophy with a smile, claiming that the soul doesn't live in the chest, but resides in the brain. We see the gruesome prep work as they carefully extracted all 13 brains and simmered them overnight into a bouillon. Takanagi offers them a single spoonful, telling them to enjoy the depth of the staff's complex inner worlds. As the animals feed on his students, the chef believes he has reached the pinnacle of his dream. But suddenly, Lord Sawtooth wipes his mouth with a napkin, looking disappointed as he hums in thought. Anxious to please, Takanagi asks the VIP for feedback, wanting to know if there is something he's dissatisfied with. The wolf complains that he wanted everything thrown in, noting that it feels like the main course ran away. Confused, the chef gestures to the pile of corpses, insisting that this meal represents his entire career and life. Just then, the doors swing open, and Minister Guenso walks in while holding Takanagi's son by the shoulder. The boy calls out to his dad in confusion, leaving the chef frozen in absolute terror at the sight. Sawtooth stares with a dark intensity, realizing that the boy, not the cooking, is actually the chef's everything. Takanagi snaps, lunging forward and screaming at the monsters not to dare touch his son. He falls to his knees, begging them to spare the boy, but the wolf just smiles and shushes him. Leaning in close, the beast whispers that his screaming is making it hard to hear the ingredient's voice. He opens his massive jaws, revealing that in the end, this despair is what actually tastes the best. The animals descend in a frenzy, tearing the son apart alive right in front of his helpless father. Takanagi stands amidst the carnage, staring blankly at the mangled remains of the child he tried to protect. Tears stream down his face, and he swears through his grief that he's gonna kill every last one of them. But the pig just pities him, telling him he was a good chef as Takanagi's screams echo into the sky. Later by the ocean, the executives look out at the water, complaining that replacing the chef ended in failure. The pig worries about the higher-ups, but the wolf insists there can be no compromise in their pursuit of excellence. Drooling with hunger, he declares that it's all for the perfect dining experience, since humans are just meat in the end. In a brightly lit room, a young otter sits quietly, listening to the staff congratulate him on his achievement. He walks past the glass, waving goodbye to his jealous friends who wish they were the ones chosen. Bowing respectfully, he thanks the guard for raising him, saying he never imagined he'd be shipped out with such pride. As they walk down the hall, the otter beams with joy, believing there's no greater honor than becoming a delicious meal. But the mood shifts instantly, and the guard coldly orders him into a room where a lifeless body lies on the floor. The guards beat him to death, complaining that he's low-quality meat that never fattens up no matter how much he eats. We learn that from birth, these creatures are conditioned to see themselves as food, ensuring they grow up stress-free. Any meat that doesn't reach a high grade is culled, while the rest is processed to produce uniquely flavorful human meat. This is how anthro-human meat is brought to life, created solely to satisfy the twisted appetites of this world. In the cafeteria, the livestock clasp their hands, offering respect and gratitude to the lives that allow them to become meat. A young lamb chews quietly, savoring the flavor of the processed meat patty on his tray. Suddenly, a dog sitting nearby scolds him, asking if he properly thanked his food before digging in. The dog lectures him, insisting that if he wants to become good meat, he needs to have a heart full of gratitude. He brags about exercising and eating gratefully, warning the lamb that bad livestock get disposed of without even being eaten. But mid-sentence, a stream of dark blood suddenly gushes from the dog's nose, silencing the room. The other animals panic, watching in horror as he coughs up a massive amount of blood into his hands. He collapses while screaming in agony, and the terrifying realization spreads that this might be a contagious disease. Immediately, loudspeakers blare, ordering everyone to remain calm, announcing that a cleanup crew has been dispatched. The lamb just keeps eating, ignoring the chaos as he finishes his meal in an orderly fashion. Even as the room empties and the dog lies dead beside him, the lamb doesn't stop chewing his food. In the security room, the human guards sigh, annoyed that they have to waste so much product due to the infection. The remaining animals are herded into a massive concrete pit, confused about why they aren't in the exercise yard. A guard looks down from the edge, explaining that since food safety is the top priority, they have to take action. He bluntly tells them that everyone who is in the cafeteria must be disposed of, thanking them for their cooperation. Without hesitation, the guards open fire, raining bullets down on the screaming livestock trapped in the hole. Later, in a stairwell, 2 guards whisper about a breach of protocol, asking how many survivors they managed to snatch. A bullman tells his human partner to take some meat home, suggesting he give his pregnant wife something nice to eat. They look down at a group of trembling puppies and lambs, reasoning that it's better they serve a purpose than die for nothing. Since using machines would leave a trace, the guards realize they have to slaughter these kids by hand. The bull raises an axe, instructing the first victim to push his neck forward a bit more to make it clean. The little ones bow their heads in submission, trembling as they wait for the blade to come down. But suddenly, the bull hands the axe to the human, telling him to finish the job while he pours gasoline. The lamb and puppy just stare blankly, watching the preparations for their own death with eerie calmness. The human hesitates, asking to switch out, but the bull refuses, reflected in the terrified eye of the victim. Drooling with hunger, the bull stares at the lamb, admitting that he really likes the taste of that meat too. Suddenly, the lamb sits up on a table, looking around a quiet room as if waking from a trance. She sighs with relief, thinking the whole ordeal was just a scary dream, unaware of the blood on the walls. Noticing his clothes are gone, he hops off the table, wondering where the nightmare ended and reality began. The camera pans out to reveal a bloodbath, with the mangled bodies of the guards and other animals scattered across the floor. Unharmed and unfazed, the lamb walks out the door, leaving the carnage behind him without a second glance. She finds a hole in the fence and steps into the outside world, whispering a single, chilling thought: that she's hungry. 2 hikers are stranded deep in the woods, arguing as the man complains that no one is coming to save them. He screams at the woman to shut up, but she interrupts him, pointing out a figure standing in the distance. They squint through the brush, surprised to see what looks like a lonely human child in this desolate valley. Relieved, the man asks for directions, and the strange girl invites them to come back to her place. They rush after her, thinking they're saved, completely missing the giant cleaver she's hiding behind her back. But the disguise fails, and the humans flee, leaving Chica tripping over her own feet in her animal form. Hungry and alone, she tries to snack on some wild berries, but the taste just isn't satisfying enough. She then spots a wounded wolf in the clearing, bleeding heavily from a weapon lodged in its back. Chica walks right up to the predator, chillingly telling him that she's going to make things easier for him. Raising a heavy rock, she looks him in the eye and asks if she can eat him when he dies. The beast lunges in a rage, but Chica doesn't flinch, watching the attack with dead, empty eyes. She effortlessly dodges every strike, dancing around the dying wolf as he collapses from exhaustion. Moments later, the innocent-looking lamb is tearing into the carcass, shoving raw intestines into her bloody mouth. Consumed by her new instincts, she wanders the mountains and rivers, thinking only of how much she wants more. Her craving leads her to a clearing, where she whispers the word meat as she spots a cabin. It looks like a hunter's lodge, quiet and isolated, the perfect place to find her next meal. Blinded by hunger, Chica walks right up to the porch, unaware of the trap hidden in the dirt. A rope suddenly snares her ankle, yanking the girl into the air before she can even react. She dangles helplessly from the large tree, swinging back and forth right in front of the house. The door slowly creaks open, and Chica stares upside down, waiting to see who lives inside. A large cowman stands over the trapped girl, holding a pitchfork as she dangles helplessly from the tree. But instead of hurting her, he brings her inside, offering a table full of delicious food to the hungry child. He laughs heartily as she stuffs her face, apologizing for the trap, since people usually wander here by mistake. Curious about her journey, the bull asks where she came from, noting that the mountain is a dangerous place. Chewing on a piece of meat, the lamb vaguely answers that she came from a place with lots of animals. The man freezes in shock, asking if she came from the farm, realizing that she must be an escapee. Overcome with emotion, he pulls her into a tight hug, shocking the little lamb with his sudden affection. Tears form in his eyes, and he promises that she's safe now, swearing to take care of her from now on. As they continue eating, we see a glimpse of the past, showing a human girl approaching the isolated cabin. A memory flashes of a dark cell, where a child holding a lantern whispers that it's finally dinner time for Mom. Back in the present, Chica falls asleep at the table, so the cowman gently picks her up like a baby. He carries her to a warm bedroom, tucking her in and telling her to rest easy after her long journey. Looming over her, he whispers that she can stay here forever, wishing her sweet dreams with a dark intensity. The man then walks down the hall, unlocking a heavy door as he mutters that he feels like having a drink. Inside, we see a horrific sight, where naked human women are hanging from the ceiling like cattle ready for milking. He approaches the female hiker he caught earlier, reaching out to collect some fresh milk from today's arrival. Terrified, the woman begs him to stop, tears streaming down her face as she realizes her fate as livestock. Meanwhile, Chica wakes up in the middle of the night, sniffing the air as she notices a strange smell. She wanders down to the basement, where she finds a terrifying skeletal bear creature waiting behind bars. The monster sits perfectly still in a dress, looking like a rotting corpse that has been kept alive for years. Suddenly, Chica's arm is severed in a splash of blood, leaving her staring in shock at her missing hand. The creature crunches down on the fresh meat, revealing that this Mom is actually a ravenous monster. Chica stares in absolute shock, watching blood spurt from the stump where her hand used to be. Before she can even scream, the monster grabs her remaining arm, dragging her violently toward the cage. With a terrifying strength, the creature hurls the little lamb inside, slamming the iron bars shut. The next morning, the bullman hums happily while making breakfast, heading upstairs to wake his guest. He enters the room with a glass of fresh milk, but his smile fades seeing the empty bed. He storms outside to the barn, accusing the captured human girl of helping the lamb escape. Furious, he kicks her against the wall, even as she cries that she didn't do anything. But the bull is losing his mind with rage, screaming at her to give back his precious Chica. He drags the hiker down to the basement, where she stammeringly asks where her mother is. Seeing the fresh blood on the floor, the bull freezes, asking the monster if she ate her. He falls to his knees in despair, weeping that this is too cruel since Chica was his prize. The human girl watches in silence as the bull throws his head back and roars in agony, but his grief quickly turns to hunger, and he decides to just eat the boy Murph instead. With a twisted face, he explains that love makes meat sweet, revealing he's not the real father. We see a memory of when Murph first arrived, standing nervously in his little overalls. The bull introduces the boy to his new family, pointing to the siblings and the skeletal mother. Suddenly, the creature lunges from her chair, throwing herself against the bars in a frenzy. Little Murph backs away in terror, watching the beast gnaw on the iron bars just inches away. The bull places a hand on his head, explaining that she loves him so much she wants to eat him. He brainwashes the child, claiming that this murderous hunger is the ultimate proof of a mother's love. We see a flashback of little Murph joining the strange family, where the bull tells him to be good and get along. Back in the basement, he explains that Ophelia was a milk slave who rotted away after starving for human meat. He lectures the terrified hiker, claiming that human children raised with love taste sweeter, just like well-aged milk. The bull calls this his brilliant life's work, raising the finest meat by feeding them false, deceitful love. The woman watches in horror as he threatens to blend her into a bloody, mushy shake for his meal. Suddenly, a demonic roar echoes through the room, shaking the very foundations of the dark dungeon. The bull spins around in shock, asking what this madness is as he sees the lamb lying on the floor. The hiker stares at the creature's face, while the bull can't believe that this child is actually sitting there. He falls into a trance of worship, calling Chica a miracle and his goddess for surviving the monster. Lifting her battered body into the air, he declares his love, believing she was sent by God just for him. He sees her as a pure, innocent gift, born exactly as she was meant to be to satisfy his hunger. Overcome with gluttony, he pins her to the table, deciding to just have a quick taste of her flesh. But while he's distracted, the hiker spots a weapon, slowly creeping up behind the unsuspecting beast. She drives the metal rod into his back, but the massive bull barely reacts, simply noting that it hurt. He grabs her by the throat, lifting her off the ground and deciding that maybe he'll eat this one first. Suddenly, a shadow rises behind him as the skeletal mother breaks free from her cage in a blind rage. Ophelia clamps her massive jaws onto his shoulder, tearing into his flesh with a terrifying supernatural strength. A lantern smashes to the ground, igniting flames as the bull struggles to fight off the undead monster. He notices a gaping wound on her body, realizing that her stomach has been completely ripped open from the inside. A horrific realization hits him as he stares at the hole and wonders if she actually ate Chica alive. The bull screams for help, admitting he was wrong as the undead monster tears him apart in front of the horrified hiker. His twisted words about a mother's love echo in her mind as the creature crawls across the floor towards her. We see a flashback of the hiker carving into the monster's stomach, pulling Chica out from inside the beast. The scene shifts outside, where the entire log cabin is now completely engulfed in roaring, white-hot flames. The hiker stands with the lamb in the aftermath, asking her why she bothered to save her from the fire. Chica explains that if she got burnt to a crisp, she wouldn't taste good, making her real intentions clear. With a cheerful smile on her face, the little lamb simply confirms that yes, she wants to eat her. The scene then changes to a snowy golf course, where a lone figure takes a powerful swing at a ball. We see that it's the orangutan from the council meeting, enjoying a relaxing day out on the green. His human assistants shower him with praise for the nice shot, and he tells them to walk and talk. One of them presents a report, showing a surge in genetic defects and cannibalism across the livestock farms. He warns that if they can't solve this problem, they're going to be facing a global-scale food crisis. But the praise throws the orangutan off his game, and he flubs the shot, sending the ball into the water. Annoyed, he turns to one of his assistants, coldly telling the young man to toss him a new ball. The man plucks out his own eyeball without hesitation, offering it to his boss to use instead. The orangutan considers the looming food crisis, deciding they'll have to accelerate development immediately. He takes a perfect swing with the eyeball, vowing to redevelop regenerative bodies to solve the issue. The scene shifts to a high-tech laboratory, where scientists walk past caged animal humans used for experiments. In a large tank, we see the severed head of the deer administrator, kept alive by wires and tubes. The hiker has a flashback, seeing her undead mother reaching out and calling her little brother's name. She remembers how her mother used to lick her cheek, a gentle sign of affection she'd almost forgotten. But when she wakes up, she's shocked to find the little lamb licking her face, bringing back the painful memory. She demands to know why the creature was watching her sleep, but Chica just plays dumb about it. Angry and confused, she tells the lamb to just go wherever she wants and leave her alone. But no matter where she goes, the annoying creature is always right there, following just a few steps behind. She climbs trees, crosses bridges, and wanders through the forest, but Chica never stops tailing her. Finally, the hiker snaps, screaming at her to stop following her around like a lost puppy. She blames Chica for everything, grabbing a branch and yelling that her mom died because of her. Threatening to kill and eat her as payback, she raises the stick, but Chica just calmly accepts her fate. She closes her eyes and tells the hiker to go ahead, offering herself up if it'll make her feel better. The hiker unleashes her fury, beating the little lamb to a pulp until she collapses to the ground. But even after the brutal attack, Chica is still alive, bloodied but sitting up as if nothing happened. She scratches her head and sighs, realizing with a strange calmness that she actually can't die. Later, by the campfire, Chica asks the hiker if she can eat her if she dies, which only makes her more annoyed. The lamb describes how delicious she looks, with soft skin, a nice clean bite, and healthy blood. The hiker blushes, admitting that it doesn't make her happy, even though her mom used to say the same thing. Chica asks if her healing injuries hurt, and the hiker realizes that regeneration isn't painless after all. She remembers that the lamb was also in pain, tossing and turning in her sleep just like she was. The hiker finally introduces herself as Murph, asking the little lamb what her name is since she never knew. Chica decides her new purpose is to live so she can eat, happily munching on a roasted frog. Murph notes that her stomach has been growling, while the lamb complains that this snack is nowhere near enough. Murph suggests that if she's hungry, she should just go to sleep and forget about it for a while, but Chica isn't falling for that trick, knowing full well that if she falls asleep, Murph will eat her. Chica remembers that her mother is still alive out there somewhere. Murph watches over Chica as she sleeps, a rare moment of peace in the middle of the dark forest. But she can't shake the image of her mother tearing her own stomach open, realizing she's truly gone. A memory flashes of her mother holding her as a child, a gentle warmth she'll never feel again. She accepts that she's alone now, walking deeper into the woods with a heavy heart. Meanwhile, Chica dreams of a mysterious voice calling her name, pulling her toward the unknown. She finds herself in a strange, rocky landscape, standing before a giant, shadowy beast. She feels like she should know this creature, but she can't remember who or what it is. A massive jaw opens wide, and a single, urgent thought cuts through the haze. She needs to run. She jolts awake in the real world, only to find two armed animal men standing over her. The hound pats her on the head, noting that the boss was right about her sharp instincts. A third soldier joins them, and they're surprised by how easy it was to catch their target. They look at the small, helpless lamb, wondering if this is really the kid they're after. But their orders are clear, so they decide to confirm the rumors about her special abilities. The hound holds her down and slices off her ear, watching closely to see what will happen. To their amazement, the wound heals in an instant, proving that this is the real deal. But just as they're celebrating, Murph appears from the shadows, her eyes filled with rage. The soldiers are surprised to see a human child, and she tells them she's lost and needs food. One of them aims his rifle at her head, warning her to back off from their valuable prize. But the leader decides to take her in too, joking that it's been a while since they had human child meat. Before he can grab her, a blur of motion knocks one of the soldiers off his feet. Murph throws another one over her shoulder, showing a surprising strength that shocks the squad. The hound stands his ground, holding the captured lamb as a shield against the furious girl. With a bloodthirsty look in her eyes, Murph spits out a single demand: to give her back her sister. The hound curses at Murph and lunges with his knife, ready to kill the girl who ruined his plan. But with a single, precise strike, she plunges her own blade into his neck, silencing him for good. She wipes the sweat from her brow, relieved that she was able to take him down after all. Murph warns Chica not to eat the meat raw, insisting that it tastes better with a little extra effort. The little lamb looks up from her meal, a single question burning in her mind. Why did she come back? Murph just shrugs it off, asking if it really matters as she starts to prepare the meat for cooking. She offers Chica a perfectly grilled skewer, and the lamb's eyes go wide at the delicious sight. Chica wolfs it down in seconds, amazed by the incredible flavor and already asking for more. The two of them sit by the fire, finally enjoying a peaceful meal together in the quiet woods. But their peace is shattered by a strange figure hanging upside down from a tree branch above them. The bat-like creature sucks blood from a captive human who is strapped into a bizarre mechanical harness. Murph realizes with a jolt of horror that the man's face is transforming, his features twisting and contorting. Suddenly, her body freezes, and she realizes that she can't move, trapped by the creature's strange power. A massive frog leaps from the darkness, landing right on the bat's head as a bizarre symbiotic companion. Murph grabs Chica and runs, escaping the paralysis as they flee deeper into the dark forest. She's terrified, admitting that she can't beat him, that it's impossible to fight a monster like that. The bull's twisted words echo in her mind, reminding her that to these creatures, humans are nothing more than food. Knowing she can't do it alone, she turns to Chica, begging her for a favor to help take him down. The bat stands in the clearing, waiting patiently as his glowing ears pick up the sound of footsteps. Murph leaps from the bushes, throwing herself at the monster as a decoy for their desperate plan. He catches her with ease, but the distraction works, giving Chica the opening she needs to attack. She runs up from behind, holding the soldier's knife and ready to strike a fatal blow. but the bat just turns and licks the blade, his long, snake-like tongue tasting the cold steel. Murph realizes with a sinking heart that their trap isn't working, that he's too powerful for them. She sees the same look in his eyes as her father's, the cold, dead stare of someone who only sees food. He lunges for Murph, and Chica screams her name, watching helplessly as the monster attacks. But just as he's about to bite, he notices a change in Chica, her ears glowing with a strange energy. Suddenly, a massive bear crashes through the trees, a powerful ally summoned by Chica's mysterious power. The bear sends the bat flying with a single brutal punch, its massive fist connecting with a sickening crunch. Both creatures let out a synchronized, high-pitched scream, their minds linked by an unseen force. The bear continues its assault, slamming its fists into the ground with enough force to shatter the earth. He grabs the bat by the head, smashing him into a tree and leaving a bloody, mangled mess. After the battle, the giant bear looks down at the little lamb, calmly stating that he's found some food. The giant bear offers his hand to the little lamb, a silent gesture of kindness in the dark woods. He turns and walks away, telling them that it's time to go home so everyone can eat together. They travel to a hidden cave, a secret entrance to a world untouched by the horrors outside. The bear carries them in the pockets of his overalls, and Chica asks where he's taking them, insisting they're not food. He tells her to be quiet, explaining that everyone's just a little shy as he gently sets them down. Chica looks around the strange, bone-littered cave, wondering what kind of place this is. A group of grotesque, misshapen creatures emerges from the darkness, their eyes fixed on the newcomers. One of them lunges forward, its long tongue shooting out to lick Chica's arm with a hungry curiosity. Another creature uses a strange power to paralyze her, while a small, monkey-like being climbs up her leg. The monsters close in, their mouths wide open and ready to devour the two helpless children. But a calm voice cuts through the chaos, telling them to wait, that the child is still alive. The polar bear, whose name is Mimi, apologizes as a small, one-eyed creature scolds him for bringing home live food. Two of them inspect Chica's face, noting that she's a mix too, just like the rest of them. She asks who they are, confused by their strange appearances, but Mimi just laughs at her question. The leader, whose name is Mimi, tells them not to worry, that they're not going to eat them or anything. He introduces himself and his family, explaining that they were born at a breeding farm for beast people. They were considered trash, born as meat, but deemed unworthy of being served as food. Mimi reveals that he had a defect that made him useful, so he was kept alive as a research subject. He was cut apart and analyzed for years, wishing he could just die and be at peace. He cries tears of joy when he's finally thrown away, thinking he can finally rest in the garbage heap. But even in death, he feels a strange sense of freedom, the stench of rot hitting his nose. He feels the freedom to breathe, to move his fingers, and to claim the corpses of others as his own. He stitched together discarded bodies to heal himself, then helped the others escape the facility. One of the creatures tells Chica not to be afraid, that despite their looks, they're all good-hearted. Chica reaches out and pinches his cheek, giggling that he's actually kind of cute up close. They all sit down for a meal, and Mimi leads them in a prayer, thanking the earth for its bounty. Chica's eyes light up at the sight of the delicious fish, amazed that Mimi caught it himself. But the meal is interrupted by a creature eating a strange, octopus-like being at the table. A small, powerful monster named Bonbo is called in to deal with the troublemaker who slipped out again. Mimi explains that Chica is a hybrid, a mix of different animals, which is why she was abandoned. Due to genetic errors, some are born with traits from multiple animals, like Pibapa, the otter hippo. Mimi notes that Chica reeks of all kinds of smells, realizing that she must have run away from a similar farm. He offers her a piece of fruit, and the family laughs, telling her to eat as much as she wants. Chica throws her head back in delight, happy to have a full stomach and a safe place to stay. Mimi tells her she can stay forever, that no one in this world of rejects will ever cast her out. Later that night, Chica brings some water to Murph, who is still sleeping off her injuries. She tries to feed her a small piece of fruit, gently placing it in her mouth as she sleeps. She looks down at the sleeping girl, a single determined thought in her mind. She has to eat. But Murph doesn't stir, so Chica cuts her own hand, letting her blood drip into the girl's mouth. She tells the unconscious Murph to get better soon, because a skinny meal doesn't taste very good. The next morning, Chica wanders out of the cave, leaving the dark sanctuary behind her for the bright woods. She looks up at the trees, surprised to see beautiful white flowers falling from the branches like snow. A familiar figure stands by the river, a ghost from her past that she never expected to see again. It's the Ernest, his eyes wide and a gentle smile on his face as he whispers her name. And that was everything. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe for more.